Let you speak now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I should start with a great thank you to George Modestin and Martina Storero. Grazie you. I'm here in Switzerland and I have a possibility to finish my translation from Latin to Belarusian, the Waldensian sources, and to start my new project about image of the East and translation of the knowledge from the East to West in the medieval Europe. And now we will see the case study of the image of the East in the anti-Waldensian polemical sources. I will try to speak in English, not very fast, but I fully understand that even not for me, not for you, is not the mother language. And my base of knowledge and your base of knowledge is very different. So if you do not understand something, please do not hesitate to ask me during the presentation or after the presentation. I'm fully ready to answer to all your questions. And here we start to the Waldenses. As you know, the heresy of the Waldenses was very popular, among the medieval polemists, medieval inquisitors, and even here you could see on this perfect image. I think everybody here knows this image, the first image of the witch in Europe, that is written of the first woman, that it's Waldenses too, but it's a bit not truth. First, let's start to the border. With the borders of the East and West, because we should speak about Eastern and Western part, and we define the East from the opposite. So where is the East? It's everywhere where is not West. So we could see here the black border, and everything that on your left of this border, this is the West civilization, not including the Muslim Spain, because this is a map of the Atlas from Duby from the end of the 15th century. Of course, now Spain is Catholic, but in the beginning of the period, of the beginning of the 12th century, Muslim Spain was excluded of the West civilization. Next, let's turn to the theoretical base of my presentation. This is theory very, I think, well known here, but not very popular in my part of Europe, because I'm here like a representative of the real East. This is the idea of the translator studi et imperi. Shortly speaking, in the image of medieval writers, all the knowledge and all the power was translated from the Troya. Nowadays, Troya is Turkey, so it's in the eastern part of the world, but in the ancient time, it was like a source of the power. Then by Aeneid, how it was written by Virgilium, it was quite directly transferred to the Roman Empire, and then not so directly, but it was transferred to the empire of Charlemagne. And how it was transferred, this idea of power, of the royal power, imperial power, in the same way it was transferred the idea of knowledge, of the sacred knowledge, good knowledge. As you know, if you have read the medieval text, you feel that truth, it was in the past. So we not try to invent some truth knowledge, we trying to search to them something in the past. But where we should find these knowledges, and this is the second, basic theoretical idea of the presentation. Of course, it's not my theory, is a theory of three Orients. So in a medieval point of view, we have three different Orients in the same geographical area, same territory, but three different meaning. First, this is a biblical Orient. It's absolutely positive and it's timeless. So it have existed in the past and it existed now, and this is a top on the world. you could see here on your right that in the medieval point of view, we start from the east. East was on the top of all the medieval maps. It was Edem was there on the top. And this is a source of all of everything sacred. Then was the Troya and all the historical events. All the historical events take part in the historical Orient, which was positive too, and located in the past, absolutely. And these two Orients was much more advanced than nowadays, like nowadays medieval Europe. They understand that these two Orients was source of knowledge, and we should study a lot from these two Orients. But we have nowadays in the medieval times a contemporaneous Orient in present, and this Orient was absolutely negative. It was contaminated, it was source of impurity, and good West crusaders, missionaries, preachers should arrive there to make it pure again, make it great again, to turn back to these good historical and biblical times. This is the very, very, very common idea. And during my presentation, I tried to take my text about the heresy of the Waldenses and to compare how it works according to these two theories, the theory of three Orients and theory of the translation of Studi et Imperii. I will use all the time the word heresy, but like I should mention that heresy is only the point of the view. Like for me, I'm Orthodox, so from my point of view, you're all heretics, and from your point, I'm a representative of very, very bad heresy too. We will speak about it later. And nowadays, we maybe try to avoid this word because how it was said about my colleague Sackville, that in the medieval times, the word heretic was like a terrorist now. It's absolutely negative meaning. But for the writers of the medieval polemic literature, from the writers of the treatise that I use in my presentation, it was absolutely reality. So heresy and heretics, they have existed, and we do not use this word because this was a part of medieval reality. And I will use this word heresy too, but without any insulting meanings. Briefly about the Waldenses, I'm pretty sure that you all know who is the Waldenses now. In French, it's sometimes used the adjective vaudois, no connection with Canton Vaud. It was a great surprise for me when I arrived here, and I have seen on every building the name vaudois, 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 because before for me, vaudois, it was only about Waldenses. And I feel me just in the right place. Thank you one more time, Martin. Sure. But some words about the heresy of the Waldenses. In the end of the 12th century, in the 11th, 17th, rich merchant of Lyon, this is not of course not a medieval stature, it's contemporaneous. He was a rich merchant firstly, and then he understood that his way of life wasn't right at all. He gave up all his property, and he started to preach, to live according to the Bible, according to the apostles. He even paid for the translation of the Bible and go to the Third Lateran Concile to show this translation to the Pope, Alexander III. But the Pope wasn't so excited about the predication of the Valdo, because Valdo was not literatus in the medieval point of view. He didn't speak Latin, he didn't have a clerical theological education, and he was forbidden to preach. But Valdo, he speaks directly to the God, and he answered that I should obey firstly to God, then to people. So if God sent me to preach, I should preach. And Valdo had enormous quantity of followers. He preached living according to the Bible, and his followers start to preach the same matter. The main point of the medieval Waldenses you could see on this presentation is denying of the purgatory, because it wasn't written in the Bible that purgatory exists only 2 ways after your death. Prohibition of taking an oath, the same stuff. It was written in the Evangelium of Matthew that it was prohibited. Waldo, they feel that he needs to preach their teaching, and the last one, but very typical for the Waldenses, it was confession to their own masters, not the Catholical priest. On the top of the movement, we could meet a Waldensian wandering preacher from the Western Pomerania, it's Baltic Sea, to Pyrenees. So it was very spread through all over the Europe. But nowadays, we could meet Waldenses. This is a unique medieval heresy that we could meet even now. But they, of course, now they are part of the Methodist Church, not heresy anymore from their point of view. In the Italian Alps, it names Valle Valdesi. It's near the Turin, Pinerolo. And the second place is Uruguay. Immigrants, Italian immigrants who replaced from the Italy to Uruguay, they have a big colony there. What's important to see here, that from the early beginning, when Waldo started to preach in the Lyon, so not far from here, southern of France, situation there from the religious point of view wasn't very simple, because it was very, very spread another heresy of Cathars. We do not start the polemic here, it was Cathars exist or not, because for Waldo and for another clerics, they existed for sure, and Waldo started to preach against them. Then Pope, when he was forbidden to preach by the Pope, a group of the former Waldenses was reconciled by the Pope Innocent III, reconciled to the Catholic Church with the right to preach against the Cathars. The main of this cleric was Duran de Osca. If you take your papers and switch on the page, I think it's 3 after the sources, it was written in very beginning of the 13th century. Duran de Osca was a leader of this group of reconciled clerics who started to preach officially, according to the Innocent III, the Pope, starting to preach against the Cathars. We will study, when we will speak about the sources, we will start from this source too. So we should memorize this name, Duran de Osca. Let's go further. Let's start to examine our sources. Let's start to speak about the image of the East. And of course, we start from the Jerusalem, because from the medieval point of view, Jerusalem, this is the middle of the world. You could see it on your maps. And we have 2 quotations in all my sources about the Jerusalem. First quotation, you could see it up, and you have it in your source, in your papers too. Next page, if you prefer to read from your paper. It's Ermengaud of de Béziers, the same Waldense who was reconciled to the Catholic Church, who changed his mind. He stopped to be Waldenses. He started to preach against the Cathars, and he wrote that. As you can see, that Patriarch of Jerusalem, he was the beast from Apocalypse, and this holy fire, which we could see every year, even now, every Easter. So this is like a fake made by this Patriarch, not real holy fire. And the second quotation, it's 2 centuries after. Peter Zwicker, I think he was the most effective inquisitor through all the times, because he was examined thousands of the Waldenses in the very, very vast area, German-speaking area from the Baltic Sea to the Austria. And when he have made a great list of the Waldensian errors, he writes that they not credunt de terra sancta Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Nazareth, et aliis locis sanctis. So here in the medieval image, your attitude to Jerusalem was a marker. Are you heretic or not? So if you do not believe in Jerusalem, certainly you are heretic. And from my point of view, firstly, it was a bit of polemical exercise to start your discourse, your polemic from the you do not believe in Jerusalem. But if you read this quotation one more time, here didn't written that they do not believe in Jerusalem. Mostly they do not believe that we should do the pilgrimage to the Jerusalem. Aliis locis sanctis in the second quotation, and we know from all other medieval sources that Waldenses deny the pilgrimage at all. Because, as we remember, there is only 2 ways after the death, and if you are, so you could deal with all your sins only during your life. After it, if your friends, your wife or something, they pray in your honor, it do not help you anymore. Because if you are in paradise, you are just do not serve you, and if you're in hell, it do not help you because it's just done. And they write that this idea of pilgrimage, it was invented by clerics just to take money from people. So here, I think that this attitude to the Jerusalem is mostly not like the denying of the role of this biblical Orient and biblical Jerusalem. It's not the denying the church tradition of holy fire and pilgrimage and so on. A bit more interesting case is the attitude to the Jews. I think you all just know, but a small repetition that in medieval times there is exist 2 different Jews. Seems a bit strange, but it was Jews of the Old Testament, chosen people. It's like a biblical Orient. So very good, who believe in God, absolutely positive image. You see on your left on the slide, this is a King David, absolutely positive. So we should close eyes to all his sins. He was absolutely positive, a positive hero of the topic, but he was Jewish too. And then we switch to your right image. This man was Jewish too, so absolutely the same like King David, but they are Jewish of the New Testament. It's absolutely negative. There was the people who crucified the Christ, who denied the Christ. So it was representative of the contemporaneous contaminated Orient. And from the medieval point of view, you could see just here under the, you could see the quotation, for example, to the Alan of Lille, one of the most famous, I think, medieval polemists. He writes the book De Fide Catholica contra Hereticos, Waldenses, Judeos, and Paganos. So this is the same order, the same meaning, Hereticos, Paganos, Judeos, and Waldenses is like more than Hereticos. And we have a lot of the same quotation that show that from the medieval Catholic point of view, Judeos, Muslims, Hereticos, this was absolutely the same meaning. We could see it on your right here that durante Oscar, he promised to preach against the Gentiles and Omnis sectas, so against the Paganos, Hereticos, and contra Judeos. So he showed that Judeos they need to be converted to the Christian religion, such as the pagans. But in the same time, you could see this quotation. It's a bit better quality. I show you. I name you the page. 1 moment. On your page sorry, on your page 4, you could see this quotation is Svidnica. So it was great investigation in Svidnica in 1315, where heretics was accused in praying for Judeos, and it was even written that they planned to unite these Judeos and to kill all the Christians. We couldn't know if it was really said by Waldenses or it was just written in the inquisitional sources, because in the same sources it was written that the same heretics adore Lucifer and make sexual orgies. So it absolutely, we couldn't be sure that they plan to unite these Jews and to kill all the Christians. But even if they really pray for Jews, I suppose that they do not consider Jews. So it's very hard to imagine that they trying to preach, to pray, to venerate people who looks like this. Yeah, as your right image. Mostly, if they pray for Jews, they have attitude to the nowadays Jews as the Jews of the Old Testament, because Waldenses in their narratives they name themselves, they do not name themselves Waldenses, they name themselves chosen people too, or people who are known by God. So absolutely like a Jewish one. What's next? This is the biggest quotation. You have it in your papers in English and in Latin. You could choose in which language you would like to read. But what is the main in this quotation? This is from the book of Grand Osca, Waldense, who was reconverted to the Catholicism and started to preach against the Cathars. He gave us the list of the sources of the Cathar heresy, and all the names that you could see here: Pythagoras, Marcion, Zoroaster, Arphaxad, Sadducei, Manichaei, Gnostici, Philet, it all the representative of the East. I should pay you attention that from the medieval point of view, according to this idea of translation studi et imperii, Troia, it was good personage, so it was positive heroes, and Greeks who attacked the Troia, they was negative. So from the medieval point of view, Greek, it was representative of the negative part. And here on the top, the first who gave the beginning from the medieval point of view to the Cathar heresy is Pythagoras. Maybe for somebody it's not very very common idea, but in reality, from this first polemical treatise on the Grand Osca, a lot of further later polemical treatises, they more or less cite him. So he was the first who give us the full list, and there they repeat small parts. What's interesting here, that maybe for the first time, we could see that Orient in the past could be not historical positive Orient, but could be negative Orient too, because he was the source of all this very, very bad heretical idea. What's next? What was more Orient, what was more near to us? Orient, this is a motherland of the heresiarchs, or motherland of the heretical masters. We have a great list. Peter Zwicker, this inquisitor, he was written the great list of the heresiarchs, the Waldensian masters, and he was very precise in the birthplace. So small village near the Solothurn was mentioned by name, but the first primo, it was Nicolaus de Polonia, just de Polonia at all, and then it was Johannes de Polonia, not precise the city. This is a very interesting case because the same Peter Zwicker, he was written that there is no Waldenses in Polonia, in Polish kingdom. He was investigated a lot of Waldenses in Stettin. Nowadays is Poland, but let's not say it in Poland, but in the time it wasn't Poland at all. So it's like Waldensian masters from the land where we haven't Waldensian masters, a bit strange point, but I think more interesting point is the Simon de Galish de Hungaria. Because you could see here, this is a border of the Hungary, Kingdom of Hungary in these times, and Galish, it's here, it's outside of the border. So it's not in Hungary, it's nowadays in Ukraine. It wasn't in Hungary in this time too, but it was a goal of King of Hungary to have the Galish, and the King of Hungary organized a lot of military campaign with the Knights of the Austria to try to conquest Galish, but without any success. And it's interesting that from the point of view of Peter Zwicker, Galish is just Kingdom of Hungary. It's a bit like to say that nowadays Galish is part of Hungary, but it's not right. That it's a bit not very accurate. But from my point of view, when he gives us the list of these heretics, he's very precise about the birthplace of heretics from Germany, from Switzerland, but he absolutely not precise about the Polonia and Hungary. And I think it's like trying to say that it was from middle of nowhere. It's from the very east. So where it was these heretics born? Polonia, Hungary, it's something very, very, very far from here. We could see the same place, the same quotation. It's your page number 5 on your paper. It was written that the heretics was sent to study. It was sourced from Pinerolo, it's near Turin. They were sent to study in Sclavonia, near the Dominus Regi Rusiane. But let's go to the map. Sclavonia in this time, this is this territory of nowadays Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia. In medieval time, this is a birthplace of Bogomilism and Bosnian heresy. We could have a big polemic now, Bosnian church is heretical or not, but from the medieval point of view, yes, there was heretics. And it's very, very logical that our heresiarchs go to study there to the another heresiarchs. And Dominus Regis Rusiana, it's not here. It's here, so it's absolutely not very near. And I think it's a bit the same point, it's in the middle of nowhere. So they go to study in Sclavonia near the Regis Rusiana. It's something very, very, very east. And now we go to this east and we go to the ball of Pope John 22, John the 22, and he was written that near the Poland, there is a lands of pagans who plan to do the annexia, to conquest the lands of real Christian Polish kingdom. If you turn back to the same map, we could see that here, this is the kingdom of Poland, and near the kingdom of Poland, yes, we haven't this border, and we have Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Yes, in this time, in the beginning of the 13th century, the Grand Dukes of Grand Duchy of Lithuania, they was pagans. So it was the biggest and the last pagan state in the Eastern Europe. But in the same time, the majority of popularity of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania were not pagans, they were Orthodox. And but in this ball, we couldn't see any sign of the Orthodox popularity. And telling the truth, Grand Duchy of Lithuania, during all the history, have no war against Poland to take the part of Polish land. This ball is the symbol of propaganda of the Teutonic Order. My colleague Loic Cholet, he was on the presentation on the first seminar, You could hear the great presentation of the attitude of the Western chivalry to this sacred war. I do not repeat it here. I only would like to emphasize that from the Western point of view, this territory, they do not like make attention that it was not only pagans but Orthodox, and in reality they do not try to attack Christian world. It was Christian world who attacked them. What's interesting here, the last case, that Pope do not pay attention about Orthodox and so on, but heretics does. Here, this is one of the direct sources trying to listen to the direct speech of the Waldensian. Of course, it was polemical treatise from the Passau, but here it looked like a quotation about the idea of the Waldenses. Et eos qui crucem predicant damnat, quod ruteni et pagani non sub gladio cogendi et fidem, sed predicatione aliciendi. So it was written very precisely that during these crusades, we have not only pagans, we have Rutens, so Orthodox, and they shouldn't be converted to faith by force. And people who predict the violence conversion, they should go to hell directly, and they should be converted only by predication. Telling the truth, this was the same idea in the Catholic polemical literature in the beginning of the crusade to the east, but after this idea was changed, and it was even said that conversion to the Christian faith by force, it's not real conversion by force, because you have a choice, or to die or to convert to Western Christianity. It's a choice too. You're absolutely free to make this choice. No pressure, no coercion. And according to book of my colleague Cholet, it wasn't such an idea in Western literature that they shouldn't be converted by force. Maybe, like, I do not know all the sources, but I have found only one quotation, only one voice to defend Ruteni and Pagani from the violence conversion. One more time, like, just to repeat, that Waldenses said no, that in the Grand Duchy of Lithuania was not only the pagans but Orthodox too. They said that preaching of the crusade was absolutely prohibited, and they postulate the voluntary conversion. Generally, Waldenses was very against the violence, even violence by court decision. So even the mortal penalty to criminals was forbidden according to Waldensian idea. And here we could go to the conclusion on the very last page of your papers. You have all my conclusion in written form, but I'm trying to repeat it very shortly. I have, okay. So like, the main conclusion that this idea of the translatio studiet imperii, if we try to put it together with heretical sources, it should be very, very changed. So if this is translation of the heretical idea, they start the heretical idea not in the good, positive, biblical or good, positive, historical orient. It starts in the bad, contemporaneous orient, absolutely polluted, like no good stuff from the orient. It's only negative, and this bad orient could exist even in the past. So in the past, not only the good historical, but either the bad, who was representative by the Greeks, Manichaeos, Gnostics, Arphaxad and Zoroen. We don't know who are them for sure. Maybe the gods of Zoroastrianism, or they was some predicators of Zoroastrianism. We don't know. But the source of the heretical knowledge, it was the impure, contaminated Orient, and this contaminated Orient directly passed this knowledge to the ancient heretics, such as the Manichaeos, or directly to the modern heretics with this help of the heresiarchs, because these heresiarchs all was born directly in the Orient, in Polonia, in Hungary, or they going to study in Sclavonia, in territory of Dominus Regis Rusiane, to study this heretical doctrine. And a moment, what's more, what's next? All the Catholic authors showed a very high level of hostility towards the Orient and absolutely no curiosity or respect for its rich cultural and philosophical heritage. So if you, for example, we try to read Bacon, we could see that he tried to adapt a lot of Orient knowledge, Orient philosophy, adapt to the Catholic theology. But in all the polemical literature, all the anti-Waldensian texts, absolutely no positive word about the Orient. It's only the source of very, very bad contamination. And as the Orient in this text was 100% evil, they could include the description of the Waldenses' not true connection with Orient Jews to emphasize the evil nature of the heretics. So we for sure, we don't know if the heretics pray for Jews, but how we could say in the polemical literature that these heretics was very bad, we could say that they tried to make a secret connection with Jews. So it was very, very easy polemical exercise to show that our opponents is fully devil. The heretics themselves were less radical-minded. They show more attention and more compassion to the oppressed minorities. And I suggest as a hypothesis that the Waldenses also shared this idea of three Orient, and if they truly mentioned their connection with the Jews, the former treated the latter, so Waldenses treated the Jews not like devil people who crucified the Christ, but also the chosen people as the Waldenses, because according to the late Waldensian doctrine, you could be saved only if you are in the Waldensian sect. If not, if you are even you are a good person, you have no sins, but if you are out of Waldensian church, you should be condemned. It's the same idea like in the Jewish, like in the Old Testament, that only Jewish was the chosen people. It goes without saying that through study of this phenomenon requires much more data that are viewable from the Waldensian sources. And I hope to continue my research by studying the other texts of the medieval heresies. This is my plan to the next year, because when we started the Waldensian text, it's very clear that Waldensian try to be like to show the compassion to other oppressed minorities, such as Jews or pagans or Orthodox, and Catholics try to attitude only the negative point of view. Thanks for your attention. And if you have any question, I'm here. We have a lot of time to answer.
Merci beaucoup pour ta présentation. I speak in French, and you stop me on va ouvrir la discussion. On a beaucoup de temps pour discuter. Tu pouvais prendre le temps de bien lire les textes, mais on peut y revenir maintenant. Je trouve intéressant que tu aies chaque fois localisé les lieux mentionnés avec sur la carte qui indiquait très clairement la frontière. Peut-être qu'on peut y venir.
Oui.
Une frontière en tout cas. Et je me demande si cet élément ne joue pas aussi un rôle important qui mériterait d'être peut-être pris en considération, où la question c'est, est-ce que l'Orient et l'Est sont synonymes? Et est-ce qu'il ne faut pas penser différemment en fonction de l'éloignement par rapport à la frontière, avec un Orient lointain qui renvoie aussi à l'Orient biblique, à la Jérusalem, etc. Et puis, plus on se rapproche de la frontière avec la chrétienté, plus le rapport à l'Est peut être différent aussi, en termes d'altérité, en termes de la nécessité de défendre, et le rapport, non seulement, qu'il faudrait instaurer peut-être une réflexion sur l'éloignement géographique et temporel, qui permet une vision de l'altérité positive, et plus on se rapproche de la frontière de l'Est et plus on se rapproche d'événements contemporains, plus là, il peut y avoir une vision plus négative due à la nécessité de défendre la chrétienté. Je ne sais pas, est-ce que c'est une hypothèse qui peut avoir du sens?
Thank you for the question. In reality, in my texts, we have no Orient, no East. So it's only my terms and I use as a synonyms during my presentation. Just not to say every time East, 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 or Orient, because in my text, they are trying to be precise. Where is it? In Persia, in Asia, in Polonia, in Sclavonia. It's interesting because from one point of view, they are trying to be precise, but from the other point of view, as we could see on the map, they have no idea about what place they are telling about. So because the Polonia, it's the name, I don't make the quotation here, I'm sorry, but they name small village near Solothurn. So they're very precise, where is it? And next, it's from Polonia. It's very, very vast territory. So I think it's like shown because for them, the word like Polonia, Sclavonia, and Asia, it was the synonym of far away. Far away because it's not precise. In one of the texts, they give the name like, I'm sorry, it's here, it's like a locum quidicitur Loxena, but we haven't know, we don't know where is Loxena. So maybe it's very, very changed. Like here, you could see. There's no. You see. Sorry, you see not the same that I see. Yeah, Loxena. Here we don't know where is it. So now it does not exist. So it's very, very changed name. And maybe it's what's like written by the words of these heretics. Maybe they used tortures. Maybe this heretics wasn't so precise where he was and his studium in Sclavonia. Maybe he generally wasn't in any Sclavonia, and it was invention of the Inquisitor. We don't know. We couldn't know, but Loxena, how it's written here, it does not exist. So we do not know. Maybe, but in these sources, in Waldensian sources, we couldn't see this difference between East and Orient. Maybe in another sources, when we have more sources, they will be more precise. But it's a question for future.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I have a question. What sources do you refer when you say that the heretics themselves showed more attention, showed more compassion to the oppressed?
The last. So the last one, they know that in Grand Duchy of Lithuania, it was not only pagans, by Ruteni, Orthodox people too. Because telling the truth, the majority of the popularity of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania was Orthodox. it's only the Grand Duke and his family and his Monier militaries, they was pagans, but the majority of the popularity in this time, in the beginning of 13th century, they were Orthodox, just Orthodox. But when we are reading the sources of this time, I fully recommend you the book of my colleague Loïc Cholet. It was written in French, very simple French, and there it was shown very precisely that they somebody know that there is not only pagans, but they prefer to not pay attention on this point, because when you have a war against the Christian, it's not so honorable as a war against the pagans. So they try not to pay attention of the Orthodox people.
Just two remarks. You quote the Anonymous of Passau, and isn't it a little bit hazardous to say that the heretics say something when quoting the Anonymous of Passau?
Yes, like.
That's first my second question or second remark, and then that the conversion of heretics, that it shouldn't be by the sword, but by predications, kind of commonplace that is much larger. I came across that idea in Thomas of Aquinas, but there are people here that know probably more about that than me, but it seems it's a kind of maybe a consensus at that time, so it's not particularly.
As I understand, but thank you for your question. So firstly, about the Anonymous of Passau, of course, as I said, it's the Catholic source, so it's not the direct quotation. We have only a little amount of the direct Waldensian sources, like a rescriptum, and the letters from the of this Johann Lezer, and I think the Sol from the direct Waldensian sources. So it's requotation, but as this is the only example, because generally when we read the polemical literature, they a bit rewrite one another. So we have absolutely the same accusation and so on. And this is the only example, and maybe we could suggest this is a direct quotation, but of course we couldn't know because it's no video, unfortunately. And the second moment about the conversion by force or not by force, as I understand, like as we could see from the Bible or this example, who was invited, who we should invite to wedding. Should we invite to wedding people who don't want to be invited, or we should invite people who are waiting to be invited? In the medieval polemic, this quotation was like an explanation of the conversion. So we should start from the people who would like to be converted, and not to press people to be converted, not to spend our time for them. But when you read the Bulls, they started to that heretics and apostates, so people who left the Christian, they could be converted by force, because they know from the beginning about the truth of Christianity, but they left it. So we should return them, it possibly by force. But about the Muslims, pagans, and Orthodox, in the first polemic, they shouldn't be converted by force. They shouldn't be converted only by preachers, by missionaries, predication, and so on. So it was very common from the beginning. But in practice, when it's going on, so for example, if we take to one moment, Bernard Clairvaux, what he said about, it wasn't in your paper, sorry. So first, who said that we could have a saint war against the not only against the Holy Land, but against the eastern part of Europe was Bernard of Clairvaux. It's the middle of the it's the middle of the 20th century. And he said that Baltic people, the pagan ones, we could have a holy war against them, ante domina aut ritus ipse aut natio deleatur. So it's like we have one choice, or conversion or natio deleatur. That's all. It is what the main meaning from the middle of the 12th century, according to the Baltic pagans. So, or conversion or death. Yes, it's choice too. So they try to show it not like coercion, because they left a choice, but maybe not the best choice we would like to do. Because it was a big polemic about Muslims. Who is Muslims? Are they heretics or no? Because as you know, from the beginning, Muslims, they seemed as a heretical sect inside the Christianity. And it was a very important question, because if they heretics, they could be converted by force. Because for heretics, we could use force. But if they not heretics, if they pagans, we shouldn't use force against them. We should show we should use the missionaries, preachers, sermons, and so on to convert them, not force. So this is like a big difference between heretics and all the other people could be used force or not. But by the Teutonic Knights, they do not use really sermon of our lands. They use only violence and taking lands and so on.
Il y a une discussion sur Zoom. Il y
a
des questions. Il y a l'hypothèse que l'Oxena, en réalité, serait Boxena.
Okay. Okay, I could.
Voilà, dans la discussion. Et puis, il y a voilà.
Francesca Tasca.
Oui, alors la question au début sur Boxena, et puis voilà. Et puis, il y a d'autres questions.
Okay, but in reality, I haven't seen this variant, that Boxena, because Boxena we haven't, and so I couldn't answer. I should check it, but thanks. I will write after to Francesca to discuss this variant. Okay, I should open. Yeah, like of course about Peter Waldo. From the beginning, he wasn't Peter, of course, but we use it like by tradition as a heretic. Yeah, but of course it was very, very late, maybe 2 centuries after his death, when they start to write Peter to show that he had the same right as Apostle Peter. Yeah, that's right.
I have a question. What is your sources or literature for this theory of 3 or 2 Orient? Because it's the fundament of your work. And
yes, this concept, like the small mentions of this concept, I have seen in different sources that you could see in your in the list, but in the full variant, I have seen in the work about the attitudes to the East in the medieval Welsh. In your list of sources, yes, Natalia Petrovskaya, it was written like very, very clear in one place. And I think it's very good matched with my sources. So in the beginning, she introduced this conception.
mm-hmm. So the last medieval Welsh perception?
Yes.
Has she taken in consideration the literature concerning heresy? Or?
No, she used so like in the beginning she had like a lot of references to Jacques Le Goff and such a like big literature, and she examined all the sources from the medieval Welsh, sources that's about Charlemagne, about the Arthur cycle, and he used like the same method as me. Like she show firstly her it's not her, it's this idea of three Orients and Translator Studia Temperii, and how it's, but in the medieval Wales it's absolutely like ideal scheme, ideal diagram for medieval Wales, but for heresy it's not so, because we deal not with sacred knowledge but with a heretical knowledge. So we couldn't take the heretical knowledge from the biblical Orient, because this is absolutely positive. We should find another Orient to take this bad doctrine.
It is a little simplest, this vision of the three Orient. You have the Mirabilia of the East, you have you speak of the Greek, you have Aristotle, the positive figure, or Platon, the philosophy of Egyptian is very valorized.
Of course.
The father of the Caesar.
Of course, but like but like in my text we have as I said, we have absolutely no positive words, no about Aristotle, no about Plato. So like positive Orient do not exist at all. So it's very interesting, according to, for example, Durande Oscar, who was very high educated, so he should know about his figure, these figures, but he did not mention them absolutely. So he take only the bad examples, only the like bad sources from the Orient. It's in my text it's very, very clear that Orient it's only negative, no positive.
To have more information about justement Durand of Oscar, because it was maybe the best text for your series, and where we don't see where it comes from, this negative, if it is negative, if it is really associated with Orient.
This is a good question, but like during my examination, there even if we speak about the source of Waldensian heresy, like it's for sure that Waldensian heresy wasn't from Orient, because it was started in Lyon, but they are really trying to show some connection with Orient. They've like trying to distance from the western origin of Valdo and this heresy, like they're going to study to Sclavonia, their magisters was from Polonia, and about the Valdo, first authors, they write that he was from Lyon, and after he was like not from Lyon, but from the deep forest or some like. Of course, it is cliche. So it's this is the idea of the presentation. So they use this cliche of the bad Orient. So it's no place to the good Orient. So I started to do this, that Asia in the like contemporary time, this is a bad Orient. This is a like source of only bad contamination, pagans who are trying to attack, to annex our lands and so on. Like of course I know that of the Greek basis of the theology, but we haven't seen it in my corpus of sources. I think I'm trying to translate most part of the medieval literature about Waldenses. Of course, not everything, but I think most part, and I haven't found any positive word about any land after this black frontier. Only from this Passau Anonymous, but we don't know it's Waldensia, not Catholic words, but this is only positive, quite positive example. Only another, it's absolutely negative. That's why I speaking about it, but because if it's be another example, it wasn't be a topic to speak about. It was be very typical.
I like your idea of that. For example, Peter Zwicker is referring to a place when he mentions Poland, Galets, then Gaia, something in the middle of nowhere. Still, I wonder, in Galets, in Polonia, were there German settlements?
In Polonia, yes, of course. We have, like, for Hungary, for Galich, I'm not sure. I couldn't.
In Hungary, there were settlements.
In Hungary, of course, but Ukrainian, nowadays Ukrainian Galich, I'm not sure, but it's very possible. But in Polonia, for sure, we have a lot of German colonies. In Krakow, for sure, they have a big part. In Wrocław, they could be German part. Yes, we have a lot of German colonies in the Polish lands. Even Polish scientists, they said that the beginning of the great development of the agriculture and so on, it was brought by the monks, firstly Cistercians, to the Polish lands, and mostly Germans, of course.
So, given that most of the Waldenses, Central European Waldenses, we know, for example, in Bohemia or in Hungary, they're of German origins. So, if you take this into account, Polonia in this context ceases to be in the middle of nowhere. It could be a place where German lived, and then it is German connection.
Maybe, but the same Peter Zwicker gave us a list of the countries who are free of Waldenses, and Kingdom of Polonia are there. So this is the same time the place there is like no Waldenses at all.
I wouldn't build my argument too much on Peter Zwicker in this case, because these lists of Waldensian masters, they are transmitted with inquisitorial material that is transmitted together with the Condornire Homines. But I've talked a lot about that with Reima Palimak, the actual authority on Peter Zwicker. And he calls that the Zwicker material, or material associated with the Inquisition of Peter Zwicker, but it's not entirely sure that every word in this material stems from Zwicker.
Of course.
So built that on the contradiction, Zwicker says that, and there is.
Yeah, like, of course, but for example, in Polish tradition, the main still alive Polish scientist who write about this is Jarosław Szymański. I discussed with him this matter. He has about this list great work, and it was very, very, so we could meet it in this list in different Polish manuscripts, just on Polish lands, nowadays Polish in Wrocław, the biggest collection, and so on. And he supposed that if it will be possible to add some precise place and to add something, because we have different variants of this list with some addition, but we haven't any addition about this length. So so it's like because these manuscripts, as I see, they are most popular on the nowadays Poland. It was rewritten 2 centuries after many times, and no addition about Polonia. So about Nicolaus and Ioannas, we have additions about, we have different transcription of Halic, 3 or 4 variants how it could be written, but no words about no words about Polonia. So like, I think it's this name could be precise. It should be precise in any of this manuscript, but we haven't.
Tu as commencé ton projet avec les textes que tu connais, c'est-à-dire les textes liés à la dissidence vaudoise, au matériel inquisitorial ou au traité polémique. En fait, c'est presque un faux problème avec cette question de l'Est, puisque Valdo vient de Lyon. Le problème de l'extérieur, de l'ailleurs, se pose moins qu'avec d'autres types d'hérésies. On parle des Bogomiles, des Cathares, où il y a aussi ces origines fantasmées, manichéens, etc., qui renvoient aussi à toute une tradition des pères de l'Église, ou des premiers textes contre les hérétiques. Je me demande si tu dois, enfin, je pense que ce serait intéressant d'élargir ton corpus pour prendre en compte d'autres traités, œuvres polémiques contre l'hérésie, pour bien identifier qu'est-ce qui relève du stéréotype et qu'est-ce qui relève aussi d'un discours qui a un fondement de réalité. Et je pense toute la réflexion sur les hérésiarques. Là, il faut voir aussi quelle est la tradition textuelle. L'hérésiarque, on a besoin, et là aussi, il faudrait voir si ce n'est pas l'effet des manuels d'inquisition ou des formulaires d'interrogatoire. On a besoin de savoir qui est le maître, de qui vient l'enseignement, d'où il vient. Et il y a cette logique aussi du questionnement qui peut produire des réponses qui vont chercher vers l'ailleurs, peut-être, dans certains cas, ou pas. Et puis, donc voilà, moi je pense qu'il faudra vraiment élargir le corpus pour voir comment se pose le problème. Des textes que j'ai en tête, c'est bien sûr Pierre le Vénérable, je pense aussi, puisqu'il traite aussi à la fois des hérétiques, mais des juifs, des musulmans, etc. Donc là, il y a quelque chose à interroger aussi par rapport au rapport à l'ailleurs. Et puis, si on va vers des textes plus tardifs, je pense que le Fortalicium Fidei d'Alphonse de Espina serait intéressant parce qu'il a un livre consacré, alors il ne parle pas des Vaudois, mais voilà, les hérétiques, les juifs, les sarrasins, etc. Et là, il y a peut-être aussi des choses à interroger avec ça permettra d'avoir aussi un questionnement plus large, et puis de repérer ce qui est la reprise des discours, car on sait que ces traités aussi, enfin, contre les dissidences ou contre l'altérité religieuse se reprennent aussi beaucoup, même s'ils sont chaque fois en contact avec des événements. Alphonse Pina est bien sûr Castille, etc. D'autres problèmes aussi avec les musulmans et les juifs, d'autres questionnements. Donc, c'est plutôt une suggestion que je fais d'ouvrir le corpus, et je ne sais pas quels sont aussi tes projets par rapport à l'extension de ce corpus ou de ce projet.
So, like, I have the primary list of the next sources, but I will think about it in the autumn when my new project will start. So I will proceed with the question. Any other? So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.